as you were saying. Life changes, yes?
Yes.
Mind changes, yeah?
Yes, mine changes. For many years, I had a certain pattern of working and trying to achieve something, and it created a structure of habits that was starting to suffocate me. So I've managed to get out of that condition, and I find that my emotions are more prominent to me, and it's a new situation to navigate by them or to abide with them rather than...
You know you need to play, right? You know you need to play. Right. You need to play to express your emotions. Right. And maybe music can express them, in your case, more than sometimes words can. You are so full of feeling, my dear. It's huge, right? I think the only difference between you and the Dalai Lama is he's Tibetan and you might not be. But I believe your heart is as big as his. Yeah.
It's interesting. I've never seen myself as a big-hearted person.
Well, guess what? It's not about size. It's about depth. That's why you're here. Yeah. It's about depth of awareness. Yeah. And this is a step on the path of compassionate understanding, and beyond that, realization, that is putting it into practice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there may always be a question who we really are in the midst of changes and where we're really going in the midst of changes. And secretly, we understand that nothing changes. We are always being, right? The subject or the object. It doesn't change enough for the self. So we can say then, despite all of the appearances of changes, most important change is the unpeeling of understanding. Right? Come to terms with the true you. Not as a person or even as a body, but as soul, capital S, soul. Awakeness or buddhi. Itself. Minus the conditions and karmas and circumstances and appearances of things and people. We are left to realize. Realization. Awakeness. How to navigate from awakeness through all these life changes. Because after all, you are fundamentally awakeness. Some call it Buddha nature, which means it can't be called anything. It's useless to call it anything. It's really nameless. It's wordless, it's conceptless. Here-ness, now-ness. Yeah. Just here. Who can tolerate being just here?
You know, there are plenty of questions, plenty of ways in which the mind wants to engage the process.
From just here. Very little arises from just here. But what arises from just here is just here. We'll speak from just here.
There's not much to say about it.
Or or everything to say about just here. Eh?
Yeah, what needs expression?
What doesn't? Just here is the whole thing. It's the universe. It's not just a room. It's not just a particular arrangement of bodies. It's not just an appearance. It's the awareness of appearing to be just here in the midst of being nowhere else. We're just here. We are always just here. Not in this room, but always just here. And all forms of spiritual practice are about tolerating that fact of just here-ness. Just here. Only just here. Truly just here. Finally, just here. Ultimately, always just here. Oh yeah.
Are certain types of people more at ease in certain forms of practice? For example,
You have art, every kind of art, for the many kinds of people. You have philosophy, many types of philosophy, for the many types of people. You have music, many forms of music, for the many types of people. You have medicine, many forms of medicine, for the many types of people. It's all about who. It's all in the who is what, who needs what. Proceed.
Does having a more cerebral approach to living either preclude or give one advantage?
Who are you speaking about?
I think that at least
Yourself?
myself.
Yeah. What if there was no cerebral consideration? What would be left?
Much.
Everything is left. What? That's good. Offer it to the burn. It will be burned.
Does sound or sound-based practice like the Buddhism
Buddhism means awakening by ear to that which cannot be heard. Buddhism means awakening by eye, seeing, teaching, to that which cannot be seen. My purpose has been to save musicians from themselves and their culture by bringing what appears to be a creative form of monasticism and yogism to the people in my teaching, which is ear awakened. And thus musical, according to the culture that this body has come to. African, European, African, Spanish. So melody is important, but not more than rhythm. If rhythm is important, then dancing's important. If dancing's important, then space is important. Yeah. If space is important, energy is important. Yeah. If energy is important, then time is important. Duration. Waking, sleeping, living, dying, time. Living, the living space of time.
There's a self-defeating tendency that I see coming up in myself to try and know what you're saying.
That's because you're pretending not to know. Will you tell this man to stop pretending not to know?
That's what I hear in his questions, actually. I said to him once that the way he asks you questions is more, it's like someone, it's not like the way he listens and responds to questions that are put to him.
Well, she's a good person for you. She can help unravel some of your emotional gunk. She can see it. Your murkiness, or not you, but your blood, say, come out. Come on.
Yeah, there's a... After all these years, and who knows what before then,
Yeah.
there's definitely a depth from which to draw, from which to live. And there is also then the surface layer, which is still often cloudy and obscure and...
Appearances, right. Self-limiting appearances. What happens when there are no appearances? We are the source of appearances, which means we are the source of no appearances. If you can get that, it saves you a few thousand miles. So when you know you're the source of your own suffering, you pause. Is that coming from anywhere else? No. In that sense, there is no outside without the authorization of the inside, the validation of the inside. The agreement from the inside, which we can then say is a subjective being, the I am, or it, me, which doesn't exist. It didn't exist before the word, and it doesn't exist after you hear the word. In other words, ultimately there's no one. But we're being here. And conventionally we are given to communicate through speech. But it's not necessarily liberating speech. In the wisdom teachings you have the purification of body, speech, and mind. Not one more than the other. Then you have no body, no speech, and no mind. Before and after any of those things show up in any way. Formal context. Zero heart space, first and last. Always here, already gone. Boom. Until now. Until nowness appears as it is. The truth of being. No more, no less. The nowness of being, now. So we can distinguish who the mind is as a machine, and then what the no mind is without machinery. You see, for some, meeting the teacher, we say, use that term, teacher, guru, or the friend, is a stop point. It's an end point. In the beginning, of course, it's a start point of what else. It's an end point. Cessation, reality. Ultimately, that means the search for anything else doesn't exist, and never did. You know that. But the thought is all, it always has. No. Then the thought relative to time is avoidance of now. So the preference is to be elsewhere, anywhere but here now, in the mind of time, space, energy, self, world, and so on. Continue.
long is now? Say it again. Now, as
Never ends. It never ends. It's the eternal truth. The now is Buddha. The now is being. Being is Buddha. See? Without noise. It's a silent Buddha. No noise. That's now. It's here. Here is it. Endlessness. Eternal, let's say, is a word. Ongoing is another word. The continuum is another word.
it's once one discovers the now, the question is how to stay there, in a sense. How to
You
occupy.
can't help but be there, but you can think otherwise. So then it's how to stop thinking about it as whatever one thinks about it as. So when you're here, there's no thought about it. You rest. And you just breathe. There's nothing to figure out. It's already figured out. Inwardly, it's already figured out. There's already peace, already. Right? You go to sleep into it every night. There's no escaping. You enter the wonderful void of nirvana every night, only to come back to this noise box here, machine of human existence, until you validate the cessation more than the illusion, maya, which is wonderful, it's great. Nirvana and samsara are one. That's the paradox we're not supposed to think about. It is what it is. It is because it isn't because it is. You exist because there is no existence, and you don't exist because there is existence. In the beginning, it seems to be, let's say, a thought. In the beginning it is, maybe even difficult in the beginning. But in the middle it's not difficult. Yeah. And then in the end, it becomes difficult, it seems, but it's no longer difficult as it was. Yeah. So the paradox remains in form, the paradox, but it's not a problem anymore. It's no longer empowered by the question, the seeker. It's gone. Done. Volare.
Is the self anything beyond contraction and ignorance?
The self is an assumption.
Assumption by whom?
Ultimately, no one. Karmically, by you, yourself, and your I, and your me. All of which do not exist. Beyond thought. And we can go as far as saying that thought then is of awareness itself, not of anything or anyone. It's awareness aware of itself. It's good practice. Without an image, without a thought form, without memory. Without mind. Withoutness. So you don't think. But self thinks you. Self is the thinking, it is you. When self itself doesn't exist. And thoughtlessness. Mindlessness. Bodilessness. Gone.
How is the silence of death different than the silence of life?
How are we going to know? How are you to know? How are we to know which heaven we're going to ascend to? How are we to know? Guess. Imagine. Elsewhereness. What isn't here? Imagine elsewhereness. And what isn't here? Imagine anything else but here. Of what use? For what purpose? What if? Who says that? What if you woke up? What if you woke up and you're just realizing you forgot? You forgot you woke up? Can you remember then that you woke up before? And you may still be awake. And not asleep at all. Except self-thinking makes it appear to be that. Shh, shh. Therefore, breathing is very important in practice. Calmness training goes deep. To the core. To the heart of the issue. And being peaceful. For no reason. Because we are peacefulness. Left alone, we are peacefulness. It is peace. And from that peace, everything gets done. The grass grows, the sun shines, the clouds rain, the planets move. The stars twinkle. People breathe. We sit. And we live to die. And pass on and into the wonderful void, which this already is. This is it.
Can you talk about the progression from...
It's always a progression. You're always talking in terms of time. That's a refusal to be in the now. True time.
Perhaps the progression of understanding.
Same thing.
As it relates to the adage about...
It's thinking. No, it's not opening into now-ness. It's thinking about thinking. And you, of course, you are free to think about thinking ad infinitum, but that may not be the best of your practice. Okay? That's your tendency. Okay? As an analyst, as an intellectual who's prone to thinking that something needs to be figured out in certain forms or in a certain way, otherwise it's not figured out in your head. When there's nothing to figure out in truth. Everything is what it is. Therefore it says, as it is. Let it be as it is. It is not avoiding anything. Because ultimately, You have no choice but to let it be as it is. The universe is as it is. The rest is subjective reactions to or against or for, whatever that could be. Mhm. For you. Without you, then it is as it is for itself. And we need to get to the itself in order to have a better, deeper understanding what Buddha may be. As awakeness to what? Anything? No. No anything. No nothing.
So one speaks of unconditional love. If love has an object, how can it be unconditional? Because
it's a figure of speech.
the object goes...
It's a figure of speech, unconditional love. It's like saying there's no such thing. But we like to hear it's unconditional as if it were free or something, or huge. It doesn't matter what we say about it, it's beyond that. Because behind the imagery is the fact of the heart itself. So we have to be willing to go beyond our own concept of reality in order to enjoy what that actually is. Beyond concept. You're good.
The answer surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting something more like, it's love of everything, the totality.
It's beyond that. That's the language used. Yeah, it's not a language. Yeah, it's beyond language, it's beyond concept. Yeah. It's void. It's another word again. Might open space for people. It's word. Zero. I use the word zero. In other words, don't grasp for it. There's nothing to grasp for, think about, or talk about when it comes to what it is. In the meantime, it's time-space beings in this so-called conventional time of humanity. Of course, there's a lot to say and a lot to throw back and forth and get all bent out of shape about and disturbed about, you know. Or just not have anything to do with it. Or you take that on and say, well, this is conventional, but then it's not absolute. You find your peace. Consciousness and unconsciousness coexist. We are the unconscious. We are the conscious. And we are the superconscious. All in one. You can't think about it. That doesn't help. It's something you intuit, let's say. You intuit into it. You say, ah, true, so. So.
A lot of my time here has been spent almost ignoring what you are saying to try and insist on my own ignorance, which is
humorous.
it is. It's
Sort of funny. Yeah, it's childish.
yeah.
No, it's a little child. Like, wee, wee, wee. Right? Walking around in diapers, trying to talk like adults. And making all these noises and stuff, but it's communicating. Something. Which we see it as doesn't know what it's talking about. We love it anyway. But we know better than to judge it harshly because it is childishness. And that means there's a potential of growth and going beyond that, which is also understood. We all go beyond that. We are all here to die. We must. It will happen. In its time. Don't worry, don't push it, don't, because it comes, like every breath comes. And if that could be as easy as we are breathing now, then fantastic. Bella, beautiful. Wow. And that's how it should be. But a breath away, the last breath, the Shu. The final, ultimate Shu exhalation. The Dharma shows up to challenge one and all to wake up. Shows up to wake up. To wake up to how in charge you need to be of your phenomenon, your suffering, your programming, your culturing. And whether or not you know that what it is already here. Now, in everyone's case, if you can stop, look and listen to what it is for yourself, well enough to prove it to yourself. Ending of the search, ending of the seeker, ending of whatever needs to be found. Peace. Peace. Already. In the midst of all the turbulence and violence, human existence, peace already. Despite the horrifics, the madness, the warfare, peace. Already. Yes, love is peace. Peace is love. Openness is love. Openness is peace. Openness is awakeness. Awakeness is awareness. Awakeness is love. Awakeness is compassion. Compassion is love. Such love is mercy. Grace, openness, peaceful, givingness. Kindness, love, peace. Gratitude, appreciation.
Something that comes from some source, love.
We call it the heart source. Not the hot sauce, but the heart sauce. I would say that, and people would say, you mean hot sauce? You mean, no, I don't mean that. It's hot in its own way. Heart. Heart sauce. Source. Careful. No. Mm-hmm.
It's a mystery.
Already solved. There you go.
A negative. And yet love is definitely something positive. So it's not
Peace.
implied by peace.
Well, it is. The Dalai Lama talks of peace in action. It's a form of action, the action of kindness. I'm not a follower of that, but I see what it is as a reference for people to use the example of the language and the demonstration. Since most people, not most, but many people have a Christian idea of what peace is, and then they say, no, it's not peace because it creates violence and so on, so it's chaos. Ends up in crucifixion, how good is that? And, well, what kind of peace is that? Well, for Jesus it was peace. The crucifixion was peace. See, was the end, and as he said, moving up to join his Father, sit at the right hand of his Father. Physically painful, even horrifying, but there was peace to it. So he knew what was happening, he knew what was going to happen. He talked to his people and made it evident to everyone. 3 days. That's over. I will rise. I'll be taken up. So the proof is there. He's a man of peace in a very violent circumstance, but he maintained the peace. In the violence, he remained peaceful. Bodhisattva Jesus. Yeah. So it's up to us to bring the peace, live that peace where there is none, despite whatever else shows up. Defy it with peace. No, peace is not, it's something you have to fight for. Sadly, you have to fight for peace in this world. So it's not negative, it's who's wielding the power of it. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, spoke of peace. He was as fierce as they come. We're talking about warrior class peace. Serious warrior class peace. This music, serious warrior class peace. Harm no one. Give it all up as fiercely as is humanly possible. So there's no doubt of the sacrifice. It's total. To death. Nothing's left. Nothing held back. True giving. Harm no one. Liberate everyone.
But I think there's something when I say it's a mystery and you say it's already solved.
Because you're here, it's already solved.
It's a more.
You are here beyond question.
It's a smaller scale of.
It's already
peace.
solved. Your being has solved it. Yeah. Your moment of approaching enlightenment has solved the whole riddle of the universe. Your moment of Zen is the end of the whole story. Yeah. Zero. Effortlessness. Just breathing. It's the end of it. It's too simple for most people. Because they're mechanically breathing and stressfully breathing, and so they don't know the peace of true breathing, spiritual breathing. It's not just your lungs breathing, your mind has to breathe. See, in big gestures, of huge space, huge time. You breathe with the cosmos, my dear. Let it breathe us. Super slow breathing, to the degree of no breathing. We find the dynamic of peace in the center of it all, in the center of the sun, the peace of light, the peace of fire. It just is, it burns peacefully. We can say violently, depending on how you see it, but it's in peace, and it's because of peace it can be what it is as a force. We have to see that, this mystic analysis. The peace of the hurricane and the tornado in its dance. Beware of it, but it's the peace of the tornado. It's the peace of wind. Spinning. Outside, inside. Spiraling up. You go to bed tonight, spiral back up. See you in the morning.